Imagine you're perched on the craggy slopes of Mauna Loa, the world's largest volcano. The air is thick with the scent of volcanic soil and tropical flowers. In your hands, you're cradling a steaming cup of what's often touted as liquid gold, Hawaiian Kona coffee. But is it really all it's cracked up to be, or have we all just fallen for a clever marketing ploy wrapped in a lei? Back in 1828, an American missionary named Samuel Reverend Ruggles decides to plant some coffee trees in the Kona district of Hawaii's Big Island. Now you might wonder why an American missionary would be so interested in coffee. Was he worried about staying awake during long sermons? Or perhaps he just couldn't stand the thought of a tropical paradise without a decent coffee. Ruggles wasn't new to Hawaii. He'd been part of the first company of American missionaries that arrived in 1820. After a stint in Hilo, he was transferred to Kona, and he didn't come empty-handed. Tucked away in his luggage were coffee plant cuttings from the Boki estate on Oahu. Little did he know that he was planting the seeds of a coffee empire that would still be making waves nearly 2 centuries later. Fast forward to today, and Kona coffee is often hailed as one of the world's finest. But what makes it so special? Is it the volcanic soil, rich in minerals and, let's face it, larvaly nutrients? Sorry, couldn't resist. Is it the perfect balance of sun and rain, as if Mother Nature herself decided to become a barista? Or is it something less tangible, the allure of Hawaii itself, distilled into a cup? After all, who wouldn't want to drink paradise? Let's break it down. Kona coffee grows in an area known as the Kona Coffee Belt, a strip of land approximately 26 miles long and 3 miles wide, on the western slopes of Mauna Loa and Hualalai. It's like the coffee equivalent of prime beachfront real estate, only it's up a volcano. The trees grow mostly between 700 and 2,000 feet elevation, where the mornings are sunny, the afternoons are rainy, and the nights are mild. It's basically a coffee tree's idea of heaven, if coffee trees had ideas, that is. But as we all know, heaven comes at a price. Kona coffee is one of the most expensive in the world, often retailing for £35 to £45 a pound. Why so pricey? Well, it's a perfect storm of factors. Limited growing area, high labor costs, turns out paradise isn't cheap to live in, and meticulous processing. Each cherry is hand-picked, ensuring only the ripest fruit makes it to your cup. It's a labor of love, but it's also just plain labor-intensive. You might say it's the coffee equivalent of a handcrafted, small-batch, artisanal. Well, you get the idea. Now let's talk taste. Kona coffee is known for its clean, well-balanced flavor with a complex aroma. Notes of brown sugar, milk chocolate, honey, and bright fruit are common descriptors. But here's where it gets interesting. These flavor profiles aren't unique to Kona. You can find similar notes in coffees from Central America or Africa. So what sets Kona apart? Is it truly special, or have we all just been sipping the Kool-Aid? This is where things get really fascinating. Our perception of taste isn't just about the flavor compounds hitting our taste buds. It's a complex interplay of sensory input, cognitive processes, and external factors. Studies have shown that everything from the price of a product to the story behind it can influence how we perceive its taste. For instance, a 2008 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that people enjoyed wine more when they were told it was expensive, even when it was actually cheap wine. The study used fMRI scans to show that this wasn't just people saying they enjoyed it more, their brains actually registered more pleasure. Similarly, a 2013 study in the journal Food Quality and Preference found that people rated the same coffee as tasting better when it was presented in a specialty cafe context compared to a plain laboratory setting. The power of context is real, folks. So when we sip a cup of Kona, are we tasting the coffee, or are we tasting the idea of Hawaii? The warm sun, the swaying palms, the gentle surf. Are all these mental images influencing our perception? It's entirely possible that the paradise associated with Hawaii is contributing to our enjoyment of the coffee. After all, our brains are easily swayed by a good story and a pretty picture. And speaking of good stories and pretty pictures, let's talk about Kona blends. This is where things get a bit, shall we say, murky. By law, a coffee can be labelled a Kona blend if it contains just 10% Kona beans. Just 10%. The rest can be cheaper beans from anywhere in the world. This practice has been about as popular with Kona farmers as a volcanic eruption in their backyard. They argue it dilutes their brand and misleads consumers. On the flip side, blend proponents say it makes Kona accessible to a wider market. But let's be real, if you've only ever had Kona in a blend, have you really had Kona at all? It's like saying you've experienced a Hawaiian luau because you once ate a pineapple. The blend issue goes beyond just Kona. It raises questions about authenticity and transparency in the coffee industry as a whole. How much do we really know about what's in our cup? And how much should we care? It's a debate that's been ongoing for years, and it doesn't look like it's going to be settled anytime soon. Now, let's shift gears and look at the future of Kona coffee. Climate change is looming over coffee production worldwide like a massive overheated espresso machine, and Kona is no exception. Rising temperatures could push the ideal growing zone further up the mountain, reducing the already limited growing area. Currently, Kona coffee is grown between 500 and 3,000 feet above sea level. With each 1 degree centigrade increase in temperature, the suitable elevation for coffee production is expected to rise by about 150 meters. Given that Mauna Loa's peak is at 13,681 feet, you might think there's plenty of room to move up. However, it's not that simple. Factors like soil composition, rainfall patterns, and land availability all come into play. The unique conditions that make Kona coffee what it is might not be replicable at higher elevations. Increased rainfall could lead to more crop disease, and then there's the coffee berry borer, a pest that's been causing more headaches for Kona farmers than a caffeine withdrawal since it was first detected in 2010. This tiny beetle, about the size of a sesame seed, is like the James Bond of coffee pests. It's hard to detect, difficult to control, and causes massive damage. The female borer drills into coffee cherries and lays its eggs, and the larvae feed on the coffee bean, ruining its quality and reducing yield. It's estimated that this pest can reduce crop yield by 30 to 35% if left unchecked. For a premium, low-yield crop like Kona, that's a potentially devastating impact. But it's not all doom and gloom. Kona farmers are adapting faster than you can say venti soy latte with an extra shot. They're implementing new pest management strategies, exploring more resilient coffee varieties. And some are even looking at ways to use climate change to their advantage, experimenting with different elevations to produce new flavor profiles. Who knows? Maybe in a few years, we'll be raving about the unique taste of high-altitude extreme Kona. Oh, and for those coffee geeks out there wondering, Hawaiian Kona is typically of the Arabica variety, specifically the Typica cultivar. It's known for its excellent cup quality, but is also more susceptible to disease compared to other varieties. Some farmers are experimenting with different cultivars to improve disease resistance while maintaining that prized Kona flavor profile. As we wrap up our journey through the world of Kona coffee, it's worth reflecting on what this tiny growing region can teach us about coffee, agriculture, and our own perceptions. Kona is more than just a type of coffee. It's a window into the complex interplay of geography, history, economics, and human psychology that shapes our experience of food and drink. The next time you have a cup of Kona coffee, or any coffee for that matter, take a moment to think about its journey. From the hands that picked the cherries to the roaster who coaxed out its flavors. From the volcanic soil it grew in to the cup you're holding. Because in the end, every cup of coffee tells a story. The question is, are we listening? Or are we too busy Instagramming our latte art to notice?